Well, hello, welcome to In Pursuit. I hope everyone's keeping quite well in these tough circumstances, and I just wanted to have a bit of a run through my gear. I get a lot of questions, stuff like that, people that are learning, and obviously for the ones out there who've done a lot of barbel fishing and stuff, this might not be any interest to you. It might be, you might learn a thing or two. Some people might argue with me, say that I'm wrong, but it's my way of doing things. And if you are one of them people out there that's looking to try and add a little touch to the fishing, or even go out and catch your first barbel, I don't get that much time to take people out and stuff like that. So anyway, let's have a look. So I always fish very simple, simple as anything. My gear is just that's running on my main line, so that's down to your real main line. I use a robust 12 pound line usually. If you get into clear water in summer, you might want to drop it down to 8 if you've not got many snags. I wouldn't really like to go less than 8, just if you lose fish, stuff like that. And I will step up to 15 if I'm fishing places like the Trent, stuff like that, and that's mainly because of the bottom. Abrasion, stuff like that, and I use a very, very cheap line, readily available from your tackle shop, wherever. Maxima. It's tough as old boots. There's no fancy to it. That's just my main line. To start off, there's a snap swivel, and on that you can either put lead feeder. Here's one of my feeders. My old man actually makes these in all kinds of different weights, and that just clips onto your snap swivel, easy as anything, and that's running onto your main line. That just runs up and down, free as all. And then just there I've got a buffer, just a bead, just a rubber bead again. You can even use, when I first started and I didn't have any money, I used to use bracelets from market, pound bracelets, cut them off, beads, doesn't matter if they're blue, pink, whatever, just down to it. A link swivel. My knots, I haven't trimmed my knots off, or I'll usually trim that bit of line off. But, and that's it. That's your main end before you get to your hook link. Now onto your hook link, I like to use mainly Fox Illusion fluorocarbon. Now this isn't the cheapest stuff in the world. Mate of mine, Dan, got me using it, and I've been very impressed with it actually. The only time I don't use that fluorocarbon is again for fishing somewhere like the Trent, where you've got rock shelves, slates, stuff that will cut you off quite easily, and I switched this Maxima fluorocarbon. The only downside to this is it's really stiff and really quite thick, so your overall presentation I don't feel is quite as good, but when you do hook a fish you can be confident you're going to get it in. And something else I have been trying last couple of seasons is the old gravel braid. I find that I can get good results with braid if fish are a bit shy, so once they've seen a bit of angling pressure they can spook off fluorocarbon, and that's where you can get a lot of dinks, taps, knocks on your rod tip. So I try to swap to braid if I'm coming across any of that. It can just win you an extra fish. But early season or floods, I've never really had a problem with fluorocarbon. I know a lot of people prefer braid. I wouldn't say I prefer it. I'm all keen for using it, but I wouldn't say I prefer it. Now, on here, this is just a rig I've tied up, but it's probably, 3 foot there, fluorocarbon. Now, that is what I say is my average hook length, probably about 3 foot. Now, it all depends on river flow, etc. Now in summer, low river, your flow's not going to be that strong. 3 foot's enough, and the reason we use 3 foot rather than a 6-inch hook link like you'd see carp boys doing is, if you imagine that's in the floor, you're casting, that's on the bottom, your flow's coming towards me. If you only got it here, all your bait is flowing out of that feeder and travelling down river. So hopefully you want to gauge to where your up bait is going to be in comparison with the flow and the feed that's coming out of the feeder. Now obviously if you're fishing really, really fast water, you might want to go to 5 foot. If you're fishing really sluggish water, which I've had some good results for barbel. You might bring it down to 1.5 foot, 2 foot. Because what you don't want, with the flow of the water, it will flatten your uplink out, but what you don't want if it's really sluggish is your upbait to fall and land here. Because although a fish will pick it up, it's got all that movement before you see anything on your rod tips. The likelihood of you hooking a fish is slim. Now down from that hook link, straight down to a knotless knot, onto a size 10 hook, and it's rough and ready. It's as simple as fishing gets, really. To a small hair and a Corum bait stock. Again, all this stuff's readily available. I use the Corum Expert Power. I like the turnover on the hook, stop it blunting on rocky swims, stuff like that. And that's really as simple as my barbel fishing gets. And the only thing that I change along the way is either the feeder, different sizes, different weights depending on flows, and the hook length of it. The only thing I will say is when you're fishing, depending on time of year and the amount that you want to cast, the differences between what you do with the feed in the feeder and the hook bait is probably the most important thing about barbel fishing. So last year I fished quite a hard stretch of river, knowing full well that I didn't want to cast many times because they're quite spooky. So rather than mixing a light base mix that goes in my ground bait and explodes, I wanted it to sit there for up to an hour, maybe 2. So I mixed my ground bait solid into that feeder, and it didn't come out in 2 hours. Now the reason behind that is that's just one big pellet to a fish. It's one big attracting smell, and it's all about smell and attraction. So I cast that out into my chosen area, and then my upbait was boilie that was paste wrapped. Now that was left for 2 hours, and eventually I got a fish. I'll say very, very tough. So in that circumstance, you don't want to be having to cast a lot. So make sure your feed doesn't come out your feeder, because the fish will come in, they're smelling it out, you're fishing for a bite. You're not fishing for 20 fish, you're fishing for a bite. The fish will come in, they can smell it, they want it, they're hungry, but the only thing that they can actually eat is your upbait. So your chances of hooking a fish are massive. Now, difference is you get to someplace on Ribble that fish, Trent, especially in summer evenings and stuff like that. You know, you get down there, river's got a foot of water on, plenty of colour. You know they're going to be having it. You want them to get their heads down. You want to get them feeding. You want to get them confident. There's not much chance of filling them up in summer. So in that case, you want quite a light ground bait mix, hemp and pellets, whatever you use, and you want it to escape. You don't want to be winding back in with any feeding. You want to be going, and every time you want to be constantly casting, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want to do. And I've had it on some places where you can't even put your rod on rest before it's ripped off again, and it amazes me every time I'll even find it that quick. So it just depends. It really depends what you want to do. I generally always fish with either hair rig pellet, boilie, a lot of obviously the bait addict stuff that I use. But I mean, you can easily adapt that if you wanted to fish maggot or whatever you want to do. But that's it. You know, it's all about watercraft. That's the rig I use. I don't use anything special. I see a lot of lads trying out all kinds of different things, and the fact of the matter is, you're fishing rivers. You're fishing where you're going to get stuck. Now, main thing is fish safety. So with that, it's free running. Fish breaks off, feeder's gone. Yeah, it's going to have a hook in its mouth. They'll get rid of that, no problem. You don't want to be fishing locked up, anything like that. And it's all about simplicity. You get lost, you get stuck, and you lose your gear. You know, what have you lost really, money-wise? You know, these feeds are all made. There's a bead. You know, there's no money, there's no gear, there's nothing littered around. Whereas you've got beads, swivels, bits and bats, all this magic stuff. You're spending a tenner every time. You get stuck 4 times. The amount of barbel anglers that I've met that are fishing some of the best swims, but they don't want to fish them because they get stuck, they lose gear, it costs money. Don't matter, does it? You know, it don't. Same again with leads. You know, all made 2 ounce, 3 ounce, whatever. Nice and simple, and fish aren't bothered. Barbel aren't bothered. You know, once you get them feeding, they really don't care. Like I said, the way I fished for that fish on that hard river last year was the same way I'd fish in winter. So in winter, I barely let any feed come out of that. I fish it solid, packed, plenty of smell, plenty of traction, whatever you want to use. Pellets, moisten them all up, get them stuck in there really hard, and then just sit it out. Because when they're coming feeding in winter, if you fill them up before they even get a chance to get your upbait, they're gone. You don't know they're there. So the only thing you want them to feed on is your upbait. And I think that's about it. Nice and simple. And yeah, I mean, this is the same rig that I caught that catfish on in France last year that was probably in excess of 70, 80 pounds. And this gear didn't let me down. And I have total faith in it. Down to the knotless knot, if anybody would like me to show. I mean, I know most anglers probably know. I can happily do a tutorial of that. I like to give it 10 wraps round, which makes it come straight off the point of the hook. You see that? Whereas if you only do 4 or 5, it tends to hang a bit like this, which I know a lot of the carp boys do. They prefer it to be a bit more loose. I suppose it's personal preference. Other than that, nice and easy, and keep safe. Let's see out on the bank. Tight lines, in pursuit.